It's away to the 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. End zone. Touchdown. Kenny Robinson, 94-yard pick six.
Follow the Mountaineers all fall long on their quest for a Big 12 championship on your home for Mountaineer football. Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Talk Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliff. Good morning. Welcome to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, Tuesday edition. Brought to you in this first segment by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning. Do you mind flipping that light on for me there?
You mean this one right here?
Yes, please, thanks.
Did you fix your glasses situation?
No, you know, it's a bad situation. In fact, I'll be taking them off and on. These are 10-year-old glasses that I had to dig up out of a drawer because I had lost mine in a kayaking adventure a week ago Saturday. So I've really been suffering with these things. I can't really see out of them. The bottom part, they're kind of trifocals. The bottom part are passable, I guess, but I can't go around. I don't know why I ever had these things. My eyes must have really changed, but they're almost useless. So I'm getting new ones. Debbie and I both got new ones on Saturday, but they're just not in yet. So got some cool, kind of moving away from the black frames and going to this sort of cool gray shade.
Yeah,
so,
that was just where you go?
Huh?
The gray?
Yeah, kind of a little gray, a little more, I don't know, something different.
All right.
You know, it's interesting with these black glasses, and I was reminded of this when I dug these old pair out because I've been wearing these black frame glasses for so long, and when I went to them, a decade or so ago, you know, because the wire frames had been popular for a while and whatever, they're almost exactly like the kind of glasses I got back when I was 15 years old when I first started wearing glasses, and back then they were the only option for a guy.
Sure.
Really, you didn't have choices.
No.
You got black frame glasses. That was basically it. So
like Henry Ford said.
Sort of went back to it.
Any man can have any car, any color he wants, so long as it's black.
It is primary day today, Rob, around the country. And while that's not particularly interesting to West Virginia voters, what is interesting is that if there was a Super Tuesday in a non-presidential year, this is basically it. There's, I think, 7 or 8 primaries. Alabama, Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, South Dakota, and the most important one is California. And here's why. A few years ago, California went to this kind of goofy system, in my opinion, but a different and odd system, whereby in the primaries, the first 2 candidates in the primary, regardless of their party or regardless of their percentage, run off in the general election. So, in other words, they're not necessarily nominating a Republican and a Democrat in these congressional races and the state legislative races. It's the top 2.
Yeah, that's weird.
It is weird. And so what happened is that the Democratic Party in California identified 4 congressional campaigns that they clearly think that they could win, and they could win these. They're currently held by Republicans. They have most of them anyway. They have about 58 seats in California. And there's 4 of them that they think that they can win. And these are Republicans who are retiring from Congress, so they're open seats. Well, what happened is that you had this flood of Democrats in each of these seats, like, 7, 8, 9 Democrats filing to run. And so what's happening conceivably now, and we'll find out tomorrow, is that these Democrats will splinter the vote in the primary amongst themselves. And quite possibly the top 2 candidates will be Republicans. So instead of being able to pick up these seats in November, it may be that they stay Republican because of this sort of nuance that it's not the top Democrat that goes to the general election. It's the top 2 candidates, regardless of their party. So anyway, kind of interesting.
Are they the only ones who do that?
I think they are. And the only one that I know of. But while what makes it compelling is that, I think as we all know, the Democrats have to gain 24 seats in the House of Representatives in order to take majority and put Nancy Pelosi back in as Speaker. And so they need, if you're taking 4 seats that they could win off the table, it makes it more difficult for them to get to that 24. I'm not saying that they will or they won't. It's too early for me to make that prediction. They at least have a 50-50 chance, if not better, of picking up that majority from the Republicans. But this will make it much more difficult for them if they can't get these 3 or 4 seats out of California.
Speaking of California, 50 years ago today.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you.
That would be the voice of one Robert F. Kennedy.
The senator is on the ground. He's bleeding profusely from apparently playback. Apparently the senator has been shot.
And that is the voice of a reporter who is on scene at the Ambassador Hotel, Andrew West, who was reporting about Robert F. Kennedy and his victory in the California primary, and full head of steam, ready to take on Richard Nixon.
Get the gun. Get the gun. Get the gun. Stay away from the gun.
Get the gun.
Take a hold of his thumb and break it if you have to. Get his thumb. Get the gun, Raper. Okay, now hold on to the guy. Hold on to him.
That is actual live radio coverage of the assassination attempt in the aftermath of Robert F. Kennedy.
Somebody shot Robert. Close the door. Close the door. Close the door.
You hear the chaos in the background. And you were actually there at the Ambassador Hotel, David Welch, 50 years ago today.
I actually was. I was with a group. I was 15 years old. I lived in the suburbs of Los Angeles. It was the Bobby Kennedy for President campaign that first got me interested and involved in politics as a volunteer. It was the first time I had ever gone down to a campaign headquarters and volunteered. I loved this man so much, and he was and listening to that can bring tears to my eyes. That was not. It's not a good memory. Mm-hmm. He was a magnificent young leader. He inspired a lot of us who are now middle-aged and senior citizens who were teenagers. Then inspired waves of us to get involved in politics, regardless of what direction we may have gone later in our lives. He was certainly the motivator for many of us to get involved. And I had, by the way, just as a footnote, I had our group that had gone down in several vans had left the ballroom, because that happened at around midnight. Mm-hmm. And so we had left to go home by then. So I wasn't actually in the ballroom when that happened, but was there in the Ambassador for the victory party. The youth were serving as sort of guides and, telling, people where to go and what rooms to go in and whatever. So I was not an eyewitness to the actual assassination, but I was at the Ambassador Hotel that night. I can't, for those of you too young at the time, or too young now to remember that event, I can't tell you how sad it was, how just deeply sad it was for our country, regardless of whether you liked Bobby Kennedy or not, whether you might have been for Eugene McCarthy or for Nixon. You might have been sad that LBJ had gotten out of the race. But this was 8 weeks after Dr. Martin Luther King had been killed. It was only 5 years after his brother, the President John F. Kennedy, had been killed. It was 5 months after the Tet Offensive in January of 1968. And this country was really a mess. It was really a mess in 1968. And that Bobby Kennedy, in so many ways, I think, embodied change. He was giving hope to a lot of Americans at the time, and probably ticking off a lot of Americans at the time as well. But he was an agent for tremendous change in a time where this country needed to heal. And he had evolved from, if you look at his career, from the 1950s being an aide to the evil Senator McCarthy, then managing his brother's campaign, then to running for the U.S. Senate from a state that he wasn't even from and winning. He had really evolved into this gigantic spokesperson for the poor, for African Americans. He had marched with Cesar Chavez in California. He flew out there to break Cesar Chavez's fast when he was fasting for better working conditions for migrant workers in California. And he had become a real champion for a lot of people. And I think that the question is always asked, historically, would he have become president in 1968? Would he have won the presidency? And it's always a great question. It's one of those questions you can study in so many different ways. You have to remember at the time, Hubert Humphrey, then the vice president running now in the aftermath of LBJ's announcement that he was going to not run for re-election after he had done so poorly against Eugene McCarthy in the New Hampshire primary. And then that sort of ushered in Robert Kennedy's getting into the race. Hubert Humphrey actually had more delegates at the time. The South, the Southern white voters, did not like Robert Kennedy, although they were Democratic and had been a reliable Democratic voting bloc. There was change going on in the South. That's what opened the doors for Richard Nixon's famous Southern strategy, ultimately against Hubert Humphrey in that general election in which Nixon went down and was the first Republican to win the state votes in many of those Southern states. Would Robert Kennedy have been able to, first of all, get over Hubert Humphrey? Would he have healed the Democratic Party? Would he have come out of Chicago as the winner? I happen to think he would have. Ultimately, I think that the convention would have, in a brokered convention, would have probably given this to Robert Kennedy. In a general election against Richard Nixon, hard to say, because it's hard to say how some of those southern states would have gone. Robert Kennedy had clearly put himself at that point in his campaign on the side of African Americans and poor Americans in general. And so that's hard to predict how the general election would have gone. Certainly, I think American history would have been different with a Robert Kennedy as president than a Richard Nixon in probably several different kinds of ways. But I can tell you this, that what you just played on the radio, coming in the aftermath of so many things that were wrong in America at the time, it's a bad memory and a bad night, and I'm glad that we honor him on this 50th anniversary of such a great tragedy.
50 years ago today, Robert F. Kennedy shot and killed by Sirhan Sirhan, serving a life sentence for that murder.
Still in prison.
8:20, we had news break over the weekend that Shepherd University would be leaving the Mountain East Conference for the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. We chose to not address this yesterday as we didn't have anything concrete. Today, we have a lot more concrete information on this, and our sports director, Matt Miller, joins us on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line, and in studio, Matt Crawford. Also here, Matt, good morning to you on the phone, and Matt, good morning to you in the studio.
Good morning.
Morning.
You know, it was so. This Matt here is so respectful of his elders that he first of all allowed Matt Miller to say hello first.
I was raised properly.
I thought that was very dear. Rob treats me the same way.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Shepherd University, and I think it's pretty much a known quantity now, Matt and Matt. You can catch these two guys Miller time each weeknight right after the 5 o'clock news under most normal circumstances. It's pretty much a given now that news will break officially from the university soon, that the university will leave its athletic affiliation and go to the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Matt Miller, I ask you first, what do you know about this, and how soon is it expected to become absolutely official?
Well, we found out late yesterday afternoon, in fact, during our Miller Time program, that reports were coming out of the TV station in D.C., in Hagerstown, that they had confirmed with sources that some form of official statement would be coming from Shepherd on Thursday of this week, with then a media announcement that would follow, I believe, June 20th or 21st. I mean, it's kind of the worst-kept secret, if you will, as Rick Kozlowski had an article out, about a month, maybe even a little more than a month ago, that the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference commissioner had, kind of put it out there that he wouldn't mind having Shepherd come and join the league with Cheney dropping out of the conference. That kind of got a whole ball rolling in a direction that, Shepherd said, it hadn't really been an official invitation when we talked with Chauncey Winbush as the vice president of athletics, but yet there was still a thought there and a consideration there by the university. And then last Friday, kind of out of nowhere, the Mountain East Conference put a statement on their website that simply read, Shepherd has informed the league of their intent to leave. And so, then it became pretty obvious, well, if they're leaving, they're going to the PSAC.
And we understand that Frostburg will upgrade to Division II and take Shepherd's place in the Mountain East Conference, Matt Crawford.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Again, I don't know if that's officially been – I know that's the word right now. I don't know if there's been anything officially signed. I know there's a couple hoops that Frostburg has to jump through to become a Division II school, and being on the Frostburg campus compared to some Mountain East schools and really kind of taking the place of UVA-Wise or Shepherd in the Mountain East, they're going to have to upgrade some facilities. Their facilities are not anywhere near what a Division II and especially a Mountain East school, and replacing UVA-Wise or Shepherd, who have two of the best facilities in the conference right now. But hearing that news yesterday and hearing the news Friday didn't surprise me a whole lot. For better or worse, whether you like or dislike what Chauncey Winbush is doing at Shepherd, when you look at the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, you look at football, and the joke is they're God's gift to Division II football. Mm-hmm. While that may be a joke for us when the Rams were in the Mountain East or in the old West Virginia Conference, there is a reason that it's called that. It's because they get the respect on the football field. And you look at baseball. They're a powerhouse Division II baseball conference.
Millersville?
Millersville, Seton Hill, a lot of storied baseball programs there. And really, you look at all their sports. The PSAC is a phenomenal athletic conference. And knowing what Chauncey has been doing at Shepherd and trying to make Shepherd more of a competitive school at every level of sports and education and everything, as soon as there was a rumor that the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference wanted Shepherd, I knew it was a done deal.
Travel-wise, this makes a lot of sense to be affiliated with the PSAC East. I heard the two of you talking on your show last night about the number of schools that are as close to Shepherd in the PSAC as Fairmont, which is the next closest school the Mountain East Conference is to Shepherd. So travel-wise, this is very advantageous, Matt Miller.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shippensburg is 54 miles away. Millersville is only 103 miles away. You've got Westchester, Kutztown, and even Bloomsburg that are all within the same basic range of Shepherd traveling to Fairmont State. So when they join the PSAC, they would be in the East, and they would be one of 8 teams that play football, 9 overall teams that are in the East in other sports. And when you look at least 7 out of those other teams, you know, they're all within about a 2.5 to no more than even a 3.5 hour trip. So travel and those type of expenses, even overnight stays, certainly are going to be much more beneficial for the Rams and their student athletes.
Are all of the teams in Pennsylvania now except for Shepherd?
Yes.
They're all, so we would be the only non-Pennsylvania team in that league.
We would be the outlier.
You say, Matt Crawford, that it's a step. I heard you say it's a step up. I mean, to a conference that is widely respected as a Division II powerhouse conference. What makes it that way?
I think it's the programs within the conference. Shepherd has the Mountain East Conference had their share of successful teams in every sport. Shepherd being one in football. The Mountain East was a very good basketball conference. Soccer, Charleston was a phenomenal Division II conference. Shepherd was really competitive in baseball. But I think you go down the list in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, and I think just the overall quality of team is going to be a lot more competitive. I mean, you look at each team in each sport, and even the more minor sports, I think you just get a more competitive edge when you're in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference than you would in the Mountain East.
Does Shepherd lend credibility and prestige to the conference? I understand that the conference lends that to Shepherd. Is Shepherd giving something to the conference that they might not have right now?
I think they probably see it that way, and that's why they want Shepherd to come in. I think in certain sports, absolutely. I think baseball, basketball, football, absolutely. I think the more minor sports, and Matt, you can add on to this. We talked to John Doyle last night, and I know the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference puts a lot of money into their not major sports, into their smaller sports, and that was a concern for the smaller sports and coaches at Shepherd who might not have been a fan of this.
Matt Miller, what about money and scholarships and those kinds of things? Does Shepherd have to pay money to get out of their current conference or pay money to get into their new one?
It's our understanding with a conversation that we had with Chauncey Winbush back on a pro day at the end of the football season as some of the Shepherd Rams were working out before scouts looking to be able to play on the next level. We were able to talk with Chauncey that day, and he did express that, yes, there is an exit fee coming out of the Mountain East Conference. that exit fee would be based on when a team would leave, if it would come within 1 year, if it would come within 2 years, if it would come within, say, 3 years. Then there were different fees related to how quickly a team may exit out of the league. We were also told that there is an entry fee that would go into the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Now, I could only imagine that, Chauncey Winbush is negotiating that with the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference if the school has to pay money to leave the MEC. And the reason that they're going to the PSAC is not necessarily Shepherd reaching out and saying, hey, we really want to do this. We want to leave our league and come to yours, but really making the move because there seemed to be that invitation. I think that would hopefully be something negotiable. But financial-wise, it has to be better overall just because of the aspect of the travel. You're going to spend less time on the road. You're going to spend less overnight trips. And I think that, there can be some money savings in those travel areas that hopefully would allow Shepherd to put some more of that money into, say, scholarships that could help the student athletes and help them to be more competitive in a strong conference.
And is there a natural rival for Shepherd in this conference?
Oh, absolutely.
Shippensburg, hands down.
Okay,
Hands
there you
down.
go. Okay. I figured that would be your answer because they played each other so many times in the past, so that's cool. You need a good rival.
I could see Millersville becoming a rival. I mean, when you look back to the early years of Shepherd in Division II football, it was 1999 when they went to Millersville and suffered a 21-14 loss on a fumbled punt late in the game in which Shepherd could have had an opportunity to, maybe go down and get the tying score or go for two and the win. And, that was a very competitive game. You look at how good Millersville has been in baseball and how good the Rams have been in the Mountain East Conference. The fact that Millersville is only 103 miles away, I could clearly see some quote-unquote rivalries developing relatively quickly.
Hey, we are out of time. Matt Miller, Matt Crawford, thanks so much for yours this morning. More from you guys at 5 o'clock today. Thanks. You can say
Thank you.
There you go. I didn't know if you didn't have to take your phones off.
And just everyone, if you don't listen at 5, it's a great show. That's all I want to say.
I agree.
Yeah.
I concur. Matt, thanks so much. Matt appearing courtesy of the WV Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Matt Crawford in studio as he is the producer of our program this week while Sherry Dieter Davis enjoys a week to herself. Our news break is next.
When to freeze and when to run, and regret is just a memory.
CBS News Update. Special Counsel Robert Mueller says Paul Manafort's been violating terms of his bail, and he's asking a judge to put him in jail. Prosecutors say the president's former campaign manager has reached out to witnesses over the phone and the WhatsApp messaging service. Politico reporter Daniel Lippman Skypes.
One of the witnesses went to Robert Mueller's folks and said this was wrong. Manafort should not be doing that. You're not allowed, if you're a defendant, to tamper with witness testimony.
John Coffey is a law professor at Columbia University.
I would think the government has made enough of a showing that there's a good chance the judge will revoke bail, or at least, if he compromises, change the conditions under which he remains free.
Sources tell CBS News Manafort's been counting on a presidential pardon, but there's no evidence he's been promised one. His money laundering trial is scheduled to begin July 24th. CBS News Update. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Eddie Gokenauer, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in Berkeley County, told WRNR that the Department of Highways has run out of road closed signs, so they've had to resort to using cones to cordon off flooded roads. Due to forecasted flooding with the potential to cause dangerous driving conditions, power outages, and the need to open emergency shelters, on Monday, Josh Compton, the president of the Jefferson County Commission, declared a state of emergency for the county that'll last until June 18th, 2 weeks from yesterday. Some wild elk being taken to West Virginia from Arizona have died in transit of stress over confinement, the heat, and the testing procedures. Governor Jim Justice's office says they're still waiting for the results of those tests, which are needed before the surviving elk can join the state's herd. But he's contacted both the Agriculture Department and the White House looking for additional help in protecting the elk during their remaining time in captivity. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing the temperature trends cooler here for the next couple of days as air comes in from the Great Lakes area. Lots of cooler air and a little instability yet this afternoon for a couple of showers and thunder showers to pop up here and there. They'll be rather hit and miss. Precipitation totals pretty inconsequential compared to what we've seen, and we will continue to see things improve along the streams and rivers and creeks, with things going below flood stage in many areas and back to closer to average weather as we get on through here the middle of the week. Looking at highs of around 75 this afternoon, early sun, then clouds, maybe a late day thunder shower. Tomorrow, lots of sun, the high 72. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
The future doesn't wait. Why should you? Blue Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 50 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes, with affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
It's that time of year again. I'm Ron Springer, head golf professional at the Woods, and I'm excited to announce the second annual Tournament of Champions on October 5th. Want to dethrone the 2017 champs? Now's the time to enter your team into one of the many qualifying tournaments here at the Woods. Not only can you win more money for your sponsoring organization, you can also win great prizes for you and your teammates. For a list of qualifying tournaments, see ads in the Journal, Around the Panhandle, and at thewoods.com. It's on.
Coming soon, it's Little League All-Star Baseball.
Sends a high drive deep into right field. Leaping in the air, Colin Weaver has a tick off of his glove and go to the wall. Making his turn at third. Here comes Bailey, and he slides in safely at the plate.
The quest to reach the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania begins June 22nd with the District 6 Area 1 10 to 12-year-old All-Star Tournament. Now's the time for your local business to help bring the action to the radio. For advertising information, contact Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center introduces a healthy way of life. It's not just another diet, but a weight management program developed by the Wellness Center that includes metabolic testing, a simple 10-minute breathing test that determines how many calories your body actually needs, followed by working one-on-one with a health coach to develop a personalized mix of exercise and nutrition to tip the scales in your favor towards successful weight loss. A lifetime of good health awaits at the Wellness Center. For more info, call 304-264-1232.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. The Tuesday show brought to you this morning by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer, Route 11 South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. Delaware today goes online as the first state to actively take advantage of the Supreme Court ruling that says states can, at their discretion, begin their own legal sports book betting operations.
So right now, today, you can go place a sports bet legally in the state of Delaware.
As of 1 o'clock today, I think that's the time frame. Now, Delaware already had it, which is why that they're already ready to hit the ground running, but you had to place a minimum of 3 sports bets through their sports book to place a bet. Today will be the first time you can place just one bet on a single game in Delaware. West Virginia is expected to be up and operating before the NFL season begins. And at 9 o'clock, we'll have Les Bernal with us. Les is against government-sanctioned gambling and especially against government-sanctioned sports book betting. And he'll be with us to tell us his reasoning behind that in about a half of an hour.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's on
It's
the
good to get all points of view when it comes to big changes like that.
They do this, it's frankly, by now, it's an institution in the community. It's the June Jubilee, and it's this Sunday, the 10th, from 11 a.m. until 5 at War Memorial Park. And Ted Morgan, his name synonymous with the June Jubilee over the years, last year began to hand off some of his duties. You met the person last year who took over some of those duties, and we're going to introduce her in just a moment. But first, we defer to Mr. Ted Morgan.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good to be here.
Man, I'll tell you what, how many years is this now?
31.
31, and you took this as, this was kind of your baby. You took this from the start and built it to what it is.
Yeah, my wife and I went to Steve Catlett 31 years ago and said that we'd like to do something in the park, maybe bring people out War Memorial Park, and it built from there.
And
kept one going.
30 years later, you decided it might be time to start to shift some of these duties to somebody else.
Right. Or share the glory.
Share the glory.
Share the glory.
And that's where Lauren Mumaw comes in. Lauren, we had you on the program last year when the glory, as David calls it, was being shifted to you. How has a year of glory shifting treated you so far?
It's been good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's been good.
It's been good.
You don't look stressed.
Yeah, much better this year. I've learned a lot, so I feel a lot better about it this year. So
you look less. Last year when you were on, you're like, oh my goodness.
Radio shows make me a little nervous. Yeah. I think I'm good this year.
They make me nervous too, Lauren, so we're in the same boat.
Me too. Me too. Absolutely. We're all cool though. It's all good. It's not like you're on TV or anything.
Mm.
Oh, she is. You didn't tell her that part?
No, I didn't tell her that part. Last year, she was all shocked to find that out, too. So, anyway, Lauren, a full year of doing this, and now Ted as your assistant, as he pointed out. Anything new this year?
This year, we have a few more sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
We also have more characters. We have Iron Man and Princess Belle from
big.
Beauty and the Beast, and Mickey and Minnie. So they'll all be there. Lots of things that are the same, because why change something that's not broken? And it's going really well. So had the same activities like moon bounces and miniature horse rides and face painting and our Uncle Bean show.
Uncle Bean's been a part of this for 20-something years now?
Many years.
Yeah.
Many years, yeah. He's Dwayne Iser from Pennsylvania. He's excellent.
I seem to remember Uncle Bean since the 90s.
Yeah, he's been there every year except one. I think his son graduated and he had to miss that year. So, but he got us a
good reason.
Replacement. But yeah, we let him off.
Do you get your cousin Bean or Auntie Bean or who?
Yes,
was his replacement.
Yeah. And how about if folks get hungry, Lauren?
Ted might be able to touch more on that. We have funnel cakes, barbecue, Italian sausage.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sweet or hot?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Do you know?
Either way you want it. Yeah.
All right, nice. You got them both.
Variety.
Yeah, no, I know you're looking for the real stuff.
I like the sweet. I'm a fan of the sweet Italian sausage.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Just
Rob's looking for the real stuff. I love that.
I think you said that last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't change my stance on sweet Italian sausage. You got to have little peppers and onions too. Are they grown up with the peppers and onions?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now we're good. I'm satisfied.
Smoothies and butterfly potatoes and just fresh cut fries. It's just a lot of good food there.
Have you had the butterfly potatoes yet?
Yes.
Have you had those?
Very good.
Yeah, I had butterfly potatoes for the first time at the home show this past spring. I got, you can't get like a little bit of those, Dave.
No, you can't eat just one.
They give you a huge serving of butterfly potatoes.
Have to.
You ever see them make them? It's pretty neat how they make them. Have you seen this, Lauren?
They peel the potato?
Yeah, and then they put it in something that just, it's like a butterfly potato maker.
So good.
Right.
And everybody should have one of those, I think.
They're very light.
You don't have one in your kitchen?
I don't have one.
Oh.
We also have sweet potato fries this year.
Sweet potato fries.
My wife's favorite sweet potato
I
fries.
love sweet potato fries. Mm-hmm. That may in itself be enough to get me down there on Saturday.
The potatoes
it's from
are
11 to 5 on June the 10th, so that's coming up this coming Saturday. Sunday, okay,
yes.
from 11 to 5. So people can go to church, and then they can go immediately from there if that's what they want to do, and spend the day at the park. What's the weather forecast for Sunday? Good? Are you getting good weather this Sunday?
It's calling for a little bit of thunderstorms, but
late in the afternoon.
Late in the afternoon.
I think
okay.
we'll be all right.
All right. So
that's happened in the past, but that's fine.
Let's hope that we can get till 5 o'clock. This is really oriented towards younger children, I guess, too, from what I'm seeing on the display ad here. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
Probably from like 2 to 12.
Okay, 2 to 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the characters and the shows and all, yes, and moon bounces.
And what about the shows? Are they puppet shows or singing shows? What are the
Uncle
shows
Bean
like?
does a magic balloon show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he does magic, and he's really good. He's really funny he's really good with the kids. And then he makes balloon animals and hats.
And then gives them out to the kids, of
and
course.
they're free.
You know, kids
Gives them
love
away.
that stuff. In fact, I even love that stuff. It is so fun. And it's great to watch them do that, too, because they do it so fast.
Is this a great country or what? Or
It is.
You figure out how to make a balloon into a hat, you can have a job in this country.
You know, it is always interesting to me the number of different ways people make a living in this country.
Right.
From
We have,
talk show host to balloon maker.
We have face painting also, which is free for the children. They just go up and get their face. We have sponsors for these events, and that's what helps pay for these characters and the pony rides and the face painting.
Well, let's give
also.
them a shout out. Come on, Ted. Who are some of our sponsors?
Oh, we got State Farm, the local agents. You can read those off with Lauren if you want.
MVB Bank, Keller Williams Premier Realty, Apple Valley Chevy Toyota, and Apple Valley Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Yep.
And then Parsons Ford, Roach Energy, 167th Federal Credit Union, Allstate, Gary Kelly, McDonald's, and the Orioles Club.
Yeah, the Orioles Club. You should get them to bring a keg or two down there. No, that doesn't probably work, does it?
This is their second year doing it.
That's great.
Yeah.
We also have Rocks and Roach Energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the grown-ups, we have the car show, which is down the other part of the park. on the
Oh,
other side of
nice.
the pool.
Okay.
Real nice car show.
And
It's
who is is that one of the clubs, the local clubs bringing all
yeah,
the cars in?
yes. Well, anybody can bring their car and enter it, but Country Roads Car Club is hosting the car show this year for me.
And mostly antique cars, right?
Street rods.
So Rob
anything,
could bring his Beamer
anything.
down there, I guess.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Sports cars, hot rods.
All the cool stuff.
Trucks. Yeah, and it's this year our title sponsor for the car show is Big K's. Big K's Towing and Body Shop. He took on that sponsorship for the overall car show. And then we have individual sponsors for the awards. And
Well, that way,
we
if
give
anybody's
out.
car doesn't start at the end, he can just tow
can
them
throw it
home.
away for you. That's right.
It's a good sponsor to have in that
Yes,
situation.
it is.
Does that ever happen? Have you ever heard of the car shows where the car won't start? And
We've had a
leave?
couple.
See?
But
And now you went out and got Big
But
K's.
their buddies come and help them.
Very smart.
Worked out well.
Very smart.
Ted, are you still on the board for Parks and Rec?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can we ask you a few Parks and Rec questions here about the pool and how we're coming along
if
at
you
Lambert,
like,
Lambert
yes.
Park? Yeah. Maybe you could tell us. We had Steve on a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about what he thought the best thing to do would be to build an indoor complex, teaming up with a hospital locally, and
Be an excellent cooperative. It really would if it could be worked out.
he said this was the time to strike because at this time the hospital is considering the major investment in that.
It would take a lot of the commitment from the city and the county and the school board, which are our sponsoring agencies for Parks and Rec, to go together with the hospital. And you put all those together, it's an ideal situation and time to do that.
Yes.
Because Parks and Rec doesn't have the money to build an
Sure.
indoor facility.
Steve recommends that. Is the Parks and Rec board wholly behind that and supporting that idea as well?
Oh yes, we like to have an indoor facility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be year round, and other activities we could have inside. Lauren is our program director, and she's involved in about everything we do in the park and park systems and swim lessons, and you could do those year round instead of just in the summer. Just lots of opportunities to open up for the community.
And Lambert's been open since Memorial Day, Memorial Day weekend. I guess that Saturday was the first of the opening of the pools. Are you having any issues with Lambert as it's filled up with water and being used at this time, Lauren?
Not right now. We got rained out, I think, Sunday, and closed the pool just due to inclement weather, but no issues
We've
right
had
now.
enough of that. Yeah, if you had any leaks at Lambert, they'd be filled up by all the rain we've had as it was.
You wouldn't know it.
Right?
Yeah, that issue is just because of age of it. It's just
Mhm.
it's just worn out, and you can't really repair it. It
Sure.
needs to be replaced, but it's not a good spot to replace it because of where it was originally built.
Right. Steve was talking about the earth and what have you.
It's in a swamp, basically,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that.
Is this the last year for Lambert Park either way, do you think?
We're not sure yet. Depends on how it lasts. If this liner repairs and all, it possibly could open again next year as a pool.
Mm-hmm.
But major issue, and that liner it cracks or is gone. it's too much of an investment. We feel, the board feels, to put back into that same spot. You know, it's spend $100,000 to $150,000 to repair a pool that might last a few more years. It's just a sort of big investment.
So it just might be time for a new pool then.
Yeah, new pool somewhere else, or the indoor facility combination.
Right.
We've got the War Memorial, and it's well used, and
Yes, it is.
It's a nice facility.
And about 20 years ago, the board had to put a lot of money into that pool. And I think, if I remember, Ted, at that time, there was the thought that you would make that into an indoor pool as well.
That was talked about, covering it.
Yeah, covering it.
And there are certain areas that have these. There are not a lot of them, but they have the top opens up and closes. You know, if it rains, you put the top up, kind of a convertible, and if it's not rain, you close it. And in winter, you can put the top up and leave it up, kind of thing, or the roof. But it's really expensive to do that, and it's really expensive to maintain because of the moisture inside that dome, so to speak. So it was really, really expensive, and we couldn't do it.
So if Steve mentioned that Lambert could become a spray park if you were able to move on.
That was an idea, have a spray park, because you don't need the underground pool in the ground, and you know, the water could be moved and recycled and all that, basically on top of the ground. And they have a couple of those around the area, and you can spend what you want on those. It can be inexpensive, or it can be very expensive. But it'd be a neat place because kids come there to get cooled off in the summer.
Sure.
Run through the sprays, and there's toys and things they can do, and you still get cooled down, and it's just as much fun. You're just not jumping in the pool.
Lauren, as the program director, activities director, tell me from an indoor standpoint, does that open up a lot more possibilities for programs that the Parks and Rec would be able to offer if you had that, or is it just simply it's an indoor pool and it's used for indoor pool stuff?
We could have swim lessons year-round. We do host the swim team at Lambert, and they can go indoors and do that year-round. It's just something that would be a nice facility for Berkeley County, and I feel like if they're already building it, we should take a part in that and try to create some more programs and fitness and what have you inside there. So,
do we know when there might be some movement on this one way or the other?
I don't know as of right now. That would be a Steve Catlett question.
Is it likely we'll have a decision on this within 6 months?
Well, that's what he's asked the governmental bodies to consider. And I think he's putting together a meeting, Steve is, with all the entities, including the hospital.
Do you know what I think, Rob? I think that this community would really miss that big swimming pool at Lambert Park. I mean, and I think the other idea is worth considering, but I really hope the governmental bodies, as you say, Ted, really take this seriously, because I just have a feeling that that is a well-used and much appreciated facility in this county. And I know that, you know, no county or no city can have everything, you know, because money, budgets, all that, you know, play into it, priorities, and all of those things that we rely upon our elected officials, those great decisions to make. But I just have a feeling that that pool, and I know we still have the one at War Memorial, but to be more on the other side of the county, to have a facility like that, I just think it would be really missed.
It could be, you know, it probably would be missed. Yeah.
No, not for me. I don't go.
Not,
I don't think any of us probably use it. But I
War
mean,
Memorial
you
is
just
the
drive
most,
by there and see 100 kids on any summer, you know, day or weekend, and you know it's being well used.
Yeah, War Memorial is the one that's used the most, of course, because it's the biggest and has the children's wading pool and all that, and then the regular swimming pool has got all the facilities right there at the park. But yeah, it's good to have an extra facility if you know if it's in the works as far as dollar wise.
If the liner holds.
But it's indoor facility for the hospital. That would be out off of Tavern Road, and which is where the land is, of course. But still, it can be used. It can be used year round. Like she said about swim teams, we could have swim team in every high school in Berkeley County, and they could use that practice and meets, and they could really open up another program in the schools.
Does each high school have a swim team now, and they all have to go to the same facility? Is that how it works, or do some of the high schools not have swim teams?
I'm not really sure. I don't know specifically which ones have swim teams, but I do know that they go out of state, you know, to use other facilities.
Okay. Hey, June Jubilee is this Sunday, 11 a.m. until 5 at War Memorial Park. Any admission costs or anything cost money that you need to
There's a $5 wristband that you buy for your child that gets them on the moon bounces and the pony rides. And, of course, the magic show is free and the face painting is free and no parking, no admission to the park. You spend $5 for your child, and that's all day. And then whatever you want to eat. You want to get a funnel cake or buy Rob an Italian sausage or something? No.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet Italian.
Ted, are you going to have a funnel cake?
Oh, I always do.
Do you?
Every year. That's
Those are like pure sugar, baby. One of those.
They're great.
Everybody loves funnel cakes.
Yeah.
Ted, Lauren, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Great to visit with you again, and hopefully we get a decision soon on something with an indoor pool as a possibility.
That would be great.
Happy June Jubilee, guys.
Thank you.
Lauren Mumaw, Ted Morgan here on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave at 8:53. This segment was brought to you this morning by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations, Robert Fields and Sons, family-owned full-service funeral home since 1880.
I'm a humming and a strumming all over God's world. You can't remember when you got your last meal, and you don't know just how a woman feels. You didn't know what rock and roll was until you met my drummer on that great tour bus. I got there in the nick of time before it got. Take the bus, come ride with us.
EPTA invites you to take advantage of their rider programs, the $5 all-day pass, the monthly pass, and the Get a Job, Get a Ride program. Visit EPTAWV.com for further details and come ride with us. This message brought to you by EPTA, the Eastern Panhandle Transit Authority. For schedules and rider information, visit EPTAWV.com. EPTA serves Berkeley and Jefferson counties.
Take the bus, come ride with us.
Okay, house or condo?
Definitely a house.
3 bedrooms or 4?
3.
Traditional or contemporary?
Contemporary.
So on the golf course or next to the lake?
Both?
Both.
Choosing the perfect house involves some tough choices. Where to find it? That choice is easy. Homesandland.com. There are thousands of listings from the area's top realtors. With a few clicks, you can search by bedrooms, by price, and choose just the features you want. And in Homes and Land magazine, you'll find full-color photos and detailed property descriptions. It's the perfect way to find your next home. For a free copy, call 1-800-277-7800 or visit homesandland.com. Homes and Land, connecting home buyers and sellers for over 30 years.
Talk to your realtor today about homes and land of the Eastern Panhandle or phone 304-579-8510.
This song has a personal meaning to you as well, doesn't it, Dave, this group here, Gladys Knight
Well,
and the
to
Pips?
my mom,
Yeah.
because this is Gladys Knight and the Pips, and my mom, for many years, was Gladys Knight's personal assistant.
Did you ever meet Gladys?
I did, yes. You know, met her, went to a couple shows and met her backstage, that's all. I mean, I didn't hang around with her.
Right. Who was your favorite Pip?
I don't know their names. They're just all the same to me.
Hey, we have a correction from yesterday. We were given this
serious one,
delicious dessert that we were told was.
It was, and this was not our mistake.
No,
but it's
we
still
got bad
mistake.
intel.
Yeah, we did.
We had strawberry crumble made fresh from the Hornby's Strawberry Garden outside their lovely home, and it turns out it was Carly Hornby who made the strawberry crumble, the daughter of Mike and Crescia Hornby. And when we gave credit to Mom, apparently it didn't go over well.
Apparently it did not. Carly was listening to the show on the way to school on the car radio and told her mother, according to Mr. Hornby, turned to her mom and said, and how old is Carly? 7 years old?
Something like that.
Turned to her mom and said, Mom, all you did was tell me what to do. I did all the work.
Kind of like this show.
Kind of like this show. Exactly right. And so, yeah, so we gave credit to the wrong person. So thank you, Carly Hornby. I'm sure you're already in class and not listening now, but maybe someone can pass on to you that you got, we did this correction. We just did that. We had to do that for you.
Your Dodgers took a West Virginia University pitcher who hasn't pitched in 13 months, by the way, because of Tommy John surgery.
I haven't heard this.
Second round of the Major League Baseball draft. I think it's the 68th pick. And
and in baseball, that's a high pick.
As a result of that, Michael Grove, who went to Wheeling Park High School, by the way, is going to get a $900,000 contract.
Now, is that just a signing bonus, or
that's the slot that they give you for signing bonus money? Because these guys, the minor leaguers, all make pretty much the same amount of money in the low rookie league.
Oh yeah, below minimum wage, basically.
So they get by on their signing bonus money if they got a decent bonus, which he'll get about $900,000.
My friend Reese Hoskins, who's playing for the Phillies now after spending 4 years in the minors, he went in the 5th round out of Sacramento State, and
I about $300,000,
$350 or $400, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I know that is exactly what he did. He was, in fact, my best friend Skip. Was the one his uncle was the one who actually administered that, managed that for him. But I know that's how he lived for those years in the minors, because minor league baseball players don't make very much money.
I mean, they literally don't make much money.
It's in fact, I'm surprised they don't have a Gary Geffert type lawyer, suing Major League Baseball for the peanuts that they make.
Matt Miller, a few years back, did some minor league games for the Suns back when a fellow named Dave Shinsky was doing their play-by-play. This would have been, I think, in the 90s. And he went to their Delmarva trip, and he told me that each player was given $15 per diem.
For the day?
Per diem is meal money.
For the whole day?
For the entire day. And you're expected to feed yourself on the road trip on $15 a day.
So at the federal government level, the per diem for food per day when you're traveling for the federal government, and I know this because many of my clients will do the same thing as the federal government, depending on the city, whether it's a small city or a big city that you're going to, it's anywhere from $60 to $75 a day for food per person.
This segment of the program brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers. I'm losing my voice here. In historic downtown Martinsburg, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship. At 9 o'clock, Les Bernal is our next guest. We're talking the pros and cons of sportsbook betting.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. A premier beauty pageant is catching up with the times.
There she is.
The story live from CBS's Vicki Barker.
The beauty pageant will no longer focus on outer beauty.
We will no longer judge our candidates on their outward physical appearance. That's huge.
That's the head of Miss America's Board of Trustees, former Fox News anchor Gretchen Carlson, herself a former Miss America, telling ABC's Good Morning America.
We will no longer have a swimsuit competition, and that is official as of September 9th when we have our competition in Atlantic City.
Carlson says potential contestants telling the board they don't want to be out there in high heels and swimsuits. Changing times indeed, Deborah.
The man whose alleged behavior inspired the Me Too movement will be in a New York courtroom next hour. Harvey Weinstein is expected to plead not guilty to charges of rape and sex assault. The special counsel says President Trump's former campaign manager broke the law when he reached out to former business associates.
Prosecutors say by contacting witnesses by phone and text message, Paul Manafort has violated the terms of his release. Columbia University law professor John Coffey.
There's a good chance the judge will revoke bail, or at least, if he compromises, change the conditions under which he remains free.
Manafort has been on home confinement since Robert Mueller accused him last year of laundering millions for the work he was paid to do for pro-Russian forces in Ukraine. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
Funerals have begun for some of the 69 victims of Guatemala's Fuego volcano eruption. Only 17 have been identified. The heat of the debris left most unrecognizable, coated in so much ash they look like statues. CBS's Manuel Bajorquez is in El Rodeo.
The mound of ash has come as high as the street signs, and there are homes that are just caked over. In some areas, the ground is still so hot that it can melt the soles of your shoes.
President Trump says there will be a celebration at the White House this afternoon, but instead of honoring the Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles, they'll pay tribute to veterans with a loud rendition of the national anthem. Reaction from Philly fans?
I think it's wrong to cancel it.
I really do. Athletes should play sports. That's what I want to see them do. I don't want to see anybody sit around and give their political opinions.
No Eagles players took a knee last season. The president says he's canceled over the league's new anthem policy. California's next governor and control of the House at issue in today's primaries. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
They have what's called jungle primaries, where the top two vote getters on a ballot, whether they're Republican or Democrat, go on to the final round in November.
S&P futures unchanged. This is CBS News.
Zoom video conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
It's time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Zoom gives you flawless video, crystal clear audio, and instant sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
With the stock market at all-time highs, cash in your profits now and invest in an asset that can potentially pay for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC-defined accredited investor, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects. Call now to learn how you can potentially achieve 20 or more years of income and deduct 100% of every dollar invested against all forms of income. Call 1-800-803-8511. That's 1-800-803-8511. Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Due to forecasted flooding with the potential to cause dangerous driving conditions, power outages, and the need to open emergency shelters, on Monday, Josh Compton, the president of the Jefferson County Commission, declared a state of emergency for the county that'll last until June 18th, 2 weeks from yesterday. Compton also activated the Jefferson County Emergency Operations Plan and the County Emergency Operations Center. Sales taxes and safety fees on fireworks sold last year in West Virginia came to just over $1 million combined. That's well below projections. 2 years ago, lawmakers figured state coffers would get nearly $3 million annually. A report from the tax department says the safety fee is largely responsible for the low figures and will keep them low going forward. Berkeley County Schools held its annual retirement recognition ceremony at Spring Mills High School Monday night. The system saw 34 professionals retire with a total of more than 1,000 years of service. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing the temperature trends cooler here for the next couple of days as air comes in from the Great Lakes area. Lots of cooler air and a little instability yet this afternoon for a couple of showers and thunder showers to pop up here and there. They'll be rather hit and miss. Precipitation totals pretty inconsequential compared to what we've seen, and we will continue to see things improve along the streams and rivers and creeks, with things going below flood stage in many areas and back to closer to average weather as we get on through here the middle of the week. Looking at highs of around 75 this afternoon, early sun, then clouds, maybe a late day thunder shower. Tomorrow, lots of sun, the high 72. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
Why Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota in Martinsburg? Because we're a name you can trust. And you can trust that you'll always find a large selection of over 400 new Chevrolets and a wide selection of new Toyotas at unbeatable prices. How unbeatable? Well, we will not be beat on any deal on any new Chevrolet or Toyota. That's right. You will not find a lower price, guaranteed. From Chevy Cruzes, Malibus, Impalas, Equinox, Suburbans, Silverados, to Toyota Yaris, Corollas, Camrys, Avalons, and more. No one beats an Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota deal. And remember to check your mailbox for this month's specials and great savings. Simply put, if you're in the market or will soon be in the market for a new or newer vehicle, check out all that Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota has to offer. We're Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota in Martinsburg, or online at applevalleychevy.com. That's applevalleychevy.com. Apple Valley Chevrolet Toyota, a name you can trust.
For all the latest in sports, keep it tuned to Talk Radio WRNR. The Dogs are now 8-7. They're at 12-4. Jefferson tonight. Martinsburg coach Josh Matheny.
We want them to develop, each and every day.
We've got 9 award-winning sportscasts each weekday, 5 in the mornings from 6 to 8:30 a.m. and 4 each afternoon, 2 during Noon News Magazine and 2 during Live at 5. Get your sports straight from the source on FM 106.5 and AM 740.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. Brought to you in this segment by the Berkeley County Health Department. Berkeley County Health Department is at 122 Waverly Court, Martinsburg. They offer public, clinical, and environmental services there. You can get your flu shots there, Dave.
Yes, you can.
Which you do.
Yeah.
Or did.
No, yes, I did.
Yeah.
My flu shot there this last time. And they were absolutely wonderful to, bring me in and get all taken care of. I did not
cry,
no. Of course, I used to cry at needles. I hated it. I was a needle phobe.
Who didn't?
But
do you look? Can you take a needle and look? Well, it's going
sure.
Because you have to do it
well,
now.
Yeah. What happened to me when I got when I was diagnosed about 8 years ago with rheumatoid arthritis, I have to take now a monthly, as a lot of people with that disease have to do, and they'll know this. You have to, usually take a needle every month, and I do my own. They send it to me, and I got over the fear of needles once I had to start doing it to myself.
No choice there, right?
So, yeah.
When
it's all good.
29 years ago, when I got my blood test to get married, my wife and I went to get our blood tests together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I watched the needle go in, and I stood up and I about passed out.
Yeah,
I
hated it.
She made fun of me for 27 years because of that. And the only thing that stopped it was what I went through 2 years ago.
Yeah, and now, I've got to go to the rheumatologist 3 times a year. What's 4 times a year? I go 3 times a year now. And every time I'm in there, they check, they got to poke me, do a blood test. So I'm quite used to it now. So, yeah, not a problem at all.
West Virginia, by the start of the NFL season, promises to be up and running with sportsbook betting at its casinos in the state. We have one just down the road from us here in Charlestown. Delaware, as of, I believe, 1 o'clock this afternoon, will be open and operating and ready to take sportsbook bets in their casinos, too. Les Bernal says this has gone too far. He is the national director of Stop Predatory Gambling and does not believe that states should be involved in setting up anything that has to do with gambling. He joins us now, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center Talk Line. Les, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. You're on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave.
Yeah, good morning to you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Les, tell us why you are opposed to states having a stake in gambling revenue.
So I think when you look at the state of our country today, pretty much no matter what your political stripes are, most people say one of the defining issues of our time is the lack of opportunity for people to improve their financial condition. Some people call it, the lack of mobility out of poverty. Yet today, in states like West Virginia and across the country, the public voice of government to most citizens is go out and gamble on games that we sponsor and partner with, in terms of these big, powerful corporate gambling interests. But meanwhile, states like West Virginia, including my own state of Massachusetts, we have 1 out of 2 citizens don't own any assets whatsoever. They don't own any property, no stocks, no bonds, none of that stuff. Yet here you have the public voice of government, in terms of we advertise gambling relentlessly in our country, encouraging citizens to play games that are literally rigged against them. And so that's far different than if the 3 of us are out, we go bowling and we have a friendly wager on the game. There's no house involved. It's a one-time thing. We can go. We have a Friday night poker game. That's not what we're talking about. That's social gambling. Predatory gambling is when states actively encourage citizens, and exploit citizens using these rigged games, whether electronic gambling machines, these extreme forms of lottery tickets, scratch tickets they're selling now, and now potentially sports gambling. And the only people that benefit from these games, they're not the citizens. This doesn't mean there's no grassroots movement in the state of West Virginia for sports books. This is being done to benefit these very powerful interests in your state, as well as the big, powerful corporate gambling interests nationally.
Les, do you have any evidence that this is harming citizens of states that do allow government-sanctioned gambling? We do here in West Virginia, obviously, with casinos. Do you have evidence that it's impoverishing people?
Sure. There's no debate amongst lottery scholars who look at this from anywhere in the country that government-sanctioned gambling exploits the financially desperate and those who become addicted. There isn't any debate about that. More than half the profits from your casinos in West Virginia come from people who are addicted gamblers. Okay? And then part of being an addicted gambler, almost like unlike any other addiction that we have in society, it literally it bankrupts you. You need cash to fuel that addiction. And I know, West Virginia, like many other states, are facing other serious public health issues. And now to add this is a self-made public health issue in West Virginia in terms of the rate of gambling addiction. The Herald-Dispatch and your West Virginia Problem Gambling Council have reported that 4% of West Virginia citizens are now addicted gamblers. Okay, that's 72,000 people. All right, 72,000 people in your state now addicted to this stuff. Guess how many people work at, because the argument is, these casinos, we're not happy with them, but, they at least employ people. Well, there's only roughly 5,000 people that work in your state's casinos, according to University of Nevada, Las Vegas studies of jobs at casinos. So roughly 5,000 people in your state, part-time and full-time, work at these places. You got 72,000 citizens, at least, who are addicted to the product. So, this isn't being done to benefit people. They don't. It's upper middle class folks and wealthy people. They're not investing their discretionary dollars in, state-sanctioned gambling. Yet, if you're middle class, working class folks, this has been marketed to people as a way to change your life. People aren't playing. The lotteries and the casinos are. We're just about fun here. When people go to most of these casinos and buying lottery tickets, they're playing with the hope to change their financial condition. That they hope and pay their rent at the end of the month. To pay a health care bill that's coming up. That's what people. And then they market it that way. And that's what's so wrong. And you should know that this is true in West Virginia and elsewhere. Is that government-sanctioned gambling operators are exempt from truth in advertising laws under the Federal Trade Commission. All right, so they can market this in ways that no other business in our society can market it. So that's why it's very different. If the three of us go and have a friendly wager on something, states like West Virginia should be allowing small unlicensed gambling games. People should be able to do that. But when you do it as a business, it's not so much the people doing the gambling; it's the people running the gambling houses, whether it's Penn National down the street from you, or Charlestown, or these other gambling interests in West Virginia. And now potentially, because where the future is here, is they're trying to bring it online so that every home in West Virginia, every dorm room, every smartphone, every tablet, is going to be essentially an extension of state government-sanctioned gambling, having a casino right into your living room, because they're trying to bring it in online. Because where the money is in sports gambling, it's not in going to your local casino to do it. Okay, the money is in trying to bring it online and what they call in-play wagering. So you're watching a sporting event, like watching the football game on TV on Sunday, and the wager isn't just going to be who's going to win this game, betting the spread or the over/under of the final outcome. It's going to be, is the next play in this game going to be a run or a pass? What's going to be the over/under on this punt? You're going to be able to wager, incentivizing people to wager every 5 seconds, and we're doing it as a government program. Okay, so that is. We get into the bigger debate in our society about is our government leaders working to benefit the public. This is Exhibit A of how they've gone off course, because this is only benefiting the folks that run these games at the expense of everybody else. And the last thing I would just say, because this is a really important point to understand, is some of your listeners may be saying, well, the state regulates alcohol and these other types of things, and that is true. But what's different from alcohol to gambling is gambling literally it's a ripoff. Like when you do it commercially, you go out and buy a lottery ticket, like that is designed for you to lose your money. If you're having a sip of a beer or a glass of wine someplace or anything else, like there's no promise, there's no con involved. You're not being conned into doing this. But with gambling, the reason why historically it's been illegal in our country is to do it as a business is because it's inherently a ripoff. And then when they start ripping people off, the only one that make money on their money comes from those who are the most addicted, the most out-of-control players, and that's where it becomes predatory. So my point where I was going with that is most of the guys that run the gambling operations in our country, okay, and this is true in West Virginia, the CEO of Penn National, who owns Charlestown, none of these guys gamble themselves. Okay, Steve Wynn doesn't gamble. The guys that make the slot machines, they refer to they told the New York Times when the New York Times are out there to interview the slot makers on how slot machines are made. The New York Times reporter asked the slot makers, "Do you guys ever play the machines that you make?" And one of the employees says, "Slots are for losers." Okay. How many? You guys are running your own radio show. How many times do you look when you consider your listeners? You don't consider your listeners losers. There's no other business in America that would have such disdain for their customers as the gambling business. It's the most predatory and exploitive business in our country today, and government has no business promoting it and encouraging it. But government should be in the business of promoting compassion and fairness for all citizens.
Les Bernal is our guest. He is the national director of Stop Predatory Gambling. I know my co-host David Welch has some questions for you, Les.
Les, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure that we've got listeners who are tuned in and listening to you and agreeing with you, and I'm sure we've got the other half that are probably saying, why do we have this guy on the air? Because this is a controversial topic. Just by way of background, I just wanted to say that although I've lived here in West Virginia for many, many years, I'm a native of Las Vegas, Nevada, third generation, and I have seen in my own family, members of my own family literally ruin their lives. Not my immediate family, but relatives who have ruined their lives over gaming. So I've always looked at gaming with a little bit of a jaundiced eye, I think, compared to most people. Here's what you get, the argument on gambling, gaming, and I think particularly on the sports side of this, and that is we might as well legalize it and make it government sanctioned, make some money off of it for the state, because it's going to happen anyway. People are going to bet on games anyway. What do you say to that?
Well, the idea that there's people who are doing illegal gambling now. I don't dispute that. But what the gambling operators, when they're actually forced to kind of give truthful answers to legislators on these questions, they acknowledge that illegal gambling isn't going to disappear by legalizing this. Okay, if anything, illegal gambling, what we've seen in other countries like Australia and the United Kingdom, there's a handful of countries that have gone down this road of legalizing sports gambling. So what we've seen in those countries is that illegal gambling actually goes up. And the reason why illegal gambling goes up is the illegal online gambling operators, they don't have to pay taxes to the state. Gambling has now been made more acceptable by the state because the state's advertising it so relentlessly for citizens to do it. Citizens now become less hesitant to participate. So the illegal gambling operators offer better odds because they're not paying taxes. They offer you a better rate on your return. So if instead of having a higher so-called vigorish, that's the gap. You pay a smaller vigorish on the online gambling operators, and then the last benefit by using an illegal operator is you can be anonymous, right? If say you owe child support, or you don't want anybody to know that you're doing this stuff. You don't want to, you can just go online illegally and do it, and that encourages people to do that. So the reality is illegal gambling in the end goes up. And by promoting this stuff. So, and what we've seen when you talk about regulating gambling in West Virginia and elsewhere, what the bottom line has always been for states like West Virginia it's about maximizing profits, not to benefit the public interest, not to benefit citizens. So when we talk about regulating it, they regulate it to benefit the operators, not to improve, help you and your neighbors, protecting you from exploitive practices. When they check the machines, they don't check the machines if the machines are safe for you to use. They check the machines to make sure that they're paying out properly to the state, and that's what's outrageous about this thing. It's really the only product in the country where there's product's the wrong word for it. It's just the only service, if you will, where there's literally no consumer protections whatsoever, because the name of the game here is just profit, and most of that profit is coming from the most financially desperate, the most least favored people in your state. And that's what makes it unjust. So if you're someone who believes that government, no matter what your political stripes are, if you believe in compassion and fairness, that's the government should be promoting those values. This is the complete opposite of that.
Les, you speak about this topic with a great deal of passion. Do you put this on the same level as, let's say, alcoholism or drug addiction, as it is related to the harm it causes in our society?
Yeah, well, if anything, I think it's even more extreme than that, because those are very serious issues. But like, if you're a drug addict, you can visibly see in people that they're a drug addict. Alcoholism is a serious issue. But you can, again, you don't lose your house usually if you become an alcoholic. You go through some very difficult times, and I'm not trying to minimize that. But when it comes to gambling, like, there's literally thousands of people in West Virginia who are destitute today, who are living in complete poverty as a result of a government program of its government-sanctioned gambling in West Virginia. And you really can't say that. The state government of West Virginia doesn't sanction opioid abuse. I mean, they're trying to stop that. They're trying to go after this problem. The predatory gambling is the only social problem where state leaders say, "Oh, you know what? The answer is more of it. Let's bring more of it in." So it's extremely addictive, and the guys that run these games, like, they make their profits from the addicts. The casual gambler is irrelevant to the business model of casinos and lotteries. It's the out-of-control player getting you to play. It's like, say maybe you did a couple bets a year with the hope of legalizing sports betting. The hope is now you're going to be wagering, as I said, every 5 seconds on an in-play betting during a football game, during 10 games a weekend. Like that's where they're trying to go with this. And the idea that we do that as a government-sanctioned entity, when there's so many other challenges that we face in society today, there's so much lack of opportunity for people, that this is Exhibit A about, when politicians of both political stripes stand up and say our system is rigged against everyday people. This is literally Exhibit A in that debate.
We're talking with Les Bernal, is the National Director of Stop Predatory Gambling. Les, how did you get involved in this? I mean, why did this become your cause?
I grew up in the state of Massachusetts, and I never questioned any of this. We've always had a lottery in the state, and so it was like the paint on the wall. I never even questioned it. But back, I used to run political campaigns. I used to be a basketball coach in the wintertime, and then for a little bit I worked as a chief of staff in the Massachusetts Senate, and it was there where I got introduced to the issue of casinos. They were trying to bring casinos into Massachusetts, and the state senator who I worked with, she was opposed to casinos coming into the state. And this was an issue, and I'd gambled a few times. I was never, I played sports my whole life and stuff, so I've been exposed to the issue a little bit. But when you really look at this business, you realize what a fraud it is. And the idea, like, the whole thing is a con. And the idea that we encourage people to do this as a government program, when there's so many, I come from one of the poorest cities of Massachusetts, and in every street corner in my city, there's lottery outlets selling to the poorest folks in the state, $30 scratch tickets. And this is true for West Virginia. Right? West Virginia has its share of economic challenges, and you know what the answer is? To bring in more casinos, more gambling to your people. And it's not being done to benefit the citizens of West Virginia. It's being done to benefit the powerful gambling operators who profit from these games, and a handful of public officials who make an enormous amount of campaign contributions of it. So for me, it became a calling for me. It's one of these things, like, when you really look at this, and we look at so many of the challenges our society faces today, like, state-sanctioned gambling intersects with so many of those problems. And this is something where, and there's no merit to it. There's no merit to this policy. It's completely driven by very powerful political forces. Because, as I said, no one's pounding the table in West Virginia. No citizens are saying, calling the legislators saying, I want sports gambling in my home. There's no, if you want to place a sports bet now at the barber or whatever, knock yourself out. No one, people, if it gets out of control, and the police step in. Now what's happening? Now what they're trying to do is make this advertising, relentlessly. So every 1 out of every 5 ads, in places like the United Kingdom where they have sports betting, 1 out of every 5 ads is gambling. So to me, it crystallized as much as any other issue of what's broken about our society today, and the government needs to get back into the business of promoting compassion and fairness, for all citizens, regardless of where you're from.
Less other than being on programs such as the one you're on now, and getting the word out, getting your opinion out there, is there another program part of your organization? For example, are you going to state legislatures around the country and opposing the further expansion or legalization of gambling in general?
Sure. So there's really we have kind of 4 elements that we focus on, and I even though I kind of worked in a lot of politics, I grew up as working on political campaigns, and I really understood the political aspect pretty clearly. I was, back then it was always 50% plus 1. You were just trying to win that vote or win the campaign. But when it comes to winning over on the issue, and one of the big issues of the day, the successful movements in American history have all had 4 pieces to them: is education, legislation, litigation, and direct action. And so Stop Predatory Gambling, we try very actively to have all 4 of those areas moving forward for us. Like, we have to have programs in all of those. So, like, we have a day in September where we do a national day called Take a Break from Gambling and Bank Your Money Day. You have so many citizens who don't even have bank accounts in our society. They use payday lenders and all these other predatory businesses to cash checks. Have a day instead of encouraging citizens to gamble on rigged games, get the state to encourage citizens to bank their money, put their money in a bank at least for one day. Just break that cycle. And so that we do that in the fall. We've done several efforts of direct action around the country. We also were involved with litigation. There was a very significant suit that actually occurred in West Virginia within the last year and a half or so, where a woman whose husband, she was a widow, and her husband got addicted to slot machines at a casino in West Virginia and ultimately killed himself because he earned up so much debt that he was worth, in his mind, he was worth more dead than alive to his family, which is just heartbreaking. And so she brought suit against the West Virginia casino operators in federal court, and then ultimately the case got remanded to the West Virginia Supreme Court, and the West Virginia Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the casinos in your state don't have any duty of care to the citizens, unlike any other business. That the state of West Virginia casinos don't have any duty of care to the citizens of your state. So they have no legal responsibility to step in and stop you, which I think is absolutely was breathtaking to me that happened. So that's just an aside. So we were involved with litigation. And then to answer your question about legislation, yes, we are invited to testify around the country before legislatures to kind of put a spotlight on how much the government-sanctioned gambling has been a spectacular failure in our country.
Les, how can our listeners find out more about your passion and your movement as the National Director of Stop Predatory Gambling?
Sure. So our website is stoppredatorygambling.org, and that's really the best place to get involved. We have a sign-up form right there. And my phone number is on the our website, and we'd love to. West Virginia is a state where it's really, unfortunately, your government leaders have sent you down a bad road on this stuff. And the good thing is we have the ability to correct that. But adding sports gambling onto the already existing failure in your state is certainly it's going to lose-lose for the people of your state without question.
Les, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Les Bernal, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Now, to our listeners, don't go away, and to Les, I would invite you to listen online at talkradiowrnr.com. We're going to talk with Danielle Boyd from the West Virginia Lottery coming up next. It's 9:29. Shop Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today and find over 150 new and used vehicles to choose from. From gas savers to SUVs to four-wheel drive trucks, all of the new and most of the pre-owned vehicles come standard with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Now you can drive away with peace of mind knowing your vehicles are covered for life. And the best part about it, there are no service requirements with Miller's, and it's all included to you at no extra cost. That's right, no extra charge, and you're not required to service with us. Just follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and you're